All
Well, good
right.
morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Oh my
April
goodness.
20th.
420. That means something to some people. I didn't want to be the first to say it, but I didn't wake up with it.
All right, we got a lot to unpack today. It's a busier Monday than usual. So before we jump into it, Adrian, would you grace us with what happened on this day in history?
I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. So on this day, 6 years ago, 2020, for those of you that remember that, the world had hit pause on travel. We were all staying put, but the oil wells were still pumping away. With every major storage tank in the country filled to the absolute capacity, these companies that were holding the oil started to panic. They were literally playing hot potato and keep away with the oil. These sellers were essentially paying logistics companies to basically take their trucks away and haul the oil away because they had nowhere left to put it. All that to say, for one wild, confusing moment in US history, the price of oil had gone negative. I don't know that anybody had paid attention to that. Here's the point. You guys are asking, all right, Adrian, how does this relate to real estate, you ask? Think of that stale listing like those barrels of oil in 2020. At first, they seem very valuable, but the longer they sit without a buyer, the carrying cost goes up. Remember that house that sits too long, that starts to feel off to buyers, regardless of how sweet the kitchen remodel is. And don't forget the emotional, mental, and physical drain on you and your sellers. All right, that's my take.
100%. I loved how you tied it together because I was wondering for a moment where you were going with that. All good.
I was going to compare
Well, you know
prices, but
what,
not
where
that
my
doesn't
mind
serve.
went is
Yeah,
look how quickly life shifts and things can change. 6 years ago, we had an excess. Today, we're concerned. A lot of the world is very concerned. They're already running out of oil.
that's
So
correct.
pretty crazy how the world works. All right. So the first thing we want to start off is we want to congratulate because this is a big deal for our industry. If you did not get the news this morning, for those of you who have been knee deep in lead generation, as you should be, what has happened and what's taken place is that the largest association in the United States is merging with the third largest association in the United States, which will create a realtor association of over 90,000 local members, which will be largest in the world, bigger than Toronto. So, what does that mean for you? I want you all to scan that QR code. That will take you to a website that has been created to answer a lot of the questions that you potentially have about how does this impact our business and what does this mean to us. So I think most importantly is the most important thing to note is that nothing changes immediately. Let's start with that. Second thing, so you can all breathe.
I was going to say agents love change.
Well, we know that the agents on the Beaches Association and the Our World membership just underwent a massive MLS change that has some bumps in it, and I know that we're not through that yet. So just want the rest of you to know that don't panic, nothing's changing. The good news is that you will all have access to more than one MLS. So once this transaction closes and becomes finalized, which will be within the next 30 days, what you will all have access to is both Flex and Matrix. So if you love Matrix, you've been using it, you're doing it, great. If you would prefer to use Flex, you'll have access to that too, depending on which board you were on. So that's number one. Number two is if you are an agent that you had a website that you're maintaining and you're pulling data feeds from your primary board and you are paying for a secondary membership, you will no longer have to pay for said secondary membership because you will get all of the data. This is a beautiful thing, especially to those agents who work in the Broward markets. Broward, for the last, umpteen years, has been a challenge for us because some products and services have some data and some products and services have other data. And this, we will finally get all of the data together. So it's a really, really cool thing that we're going to finally have some real data and not have to go third party for some of our stuff. So it's really cool.
I can't help it. If you know, because I'm looking at it from another angle. Am I hearing this correctly, Natascha, that agents will be able to broadcast a listing to over 93,000 active real estate professionals. Isn't that like more eyes on a property than any other association in the country?
Well, it's definitely more eyes. I mean, the great news is we've always had the shared right feeds. But if you were broadcasting, unless you were buying the data for the other board, you wouldn't necessarily get it there. So this is really cool. And for our commercial agents, this becomes an even bigger value proposition, especially if you were on the beaches, because Miami's commercial side sector was stronger.
Got it.
This is also really cool for those of you who are into advocacy, because one of the challenges was there was always an issue on who got to do the interviews and which board, had jurisdiction over a particular election, that sort of thing. So this
Yep,
this changes all that. So
that makes
congrats,
sense.
team. And if you have any questions, there is your QR code. And all I'm going to tell you is the next event, y'all better register early because now you don't have to just fight for a seat amongst 50,000. You're going to be fighting for a seat amongst 90,000 people. Like we need a bigger venue.
That's good stuff. All right.
All right, let's jump into what is happening here in the market. So as we start off here in Dade single family homes, I see a little good news, Adrian. What do you see?
I was going to say, I mean, we can run through these pretty quickly, but the news is positive, right? Active with contracts are up, closed are up, pending's up, new to market, slightly up, nothing crazy, but overall a positive message week over week on this one.
Correct. I saw the same thing. If we slide over to Broward single family homes, the story was pretty much the same. I think our new was, flat.
Yep.
And we can probably put a little gas pedal here on these single family homes because we could use a little bit more of them
Hmm.
on the market. But our pendings, and this is what I always look at, like where are we with pendings? Because that tells us our future. And the pendings were up. And that is normal for April, and we need to see that. So that's good. That's a really good thing. I will share a little bit of news this week. I know we talked about open houses a little bit briefly last Monday, last weekend. I want to share with you Brokers Open strategy. We had shout out to Kayla Majors. Kayla did a really great job at marketing and advertising a Brokers Open that she had in, I believe it was the Nautica subdivision in Miramar at the end of last week. Ton of agents through there, including agents that brought customers. And then she simultaneously, that I believe was Friday, and then over the weekend did back-to-back open houses. And that's the strategy, team. That is the way you get a lot of eyeballs on the home. You maximize the opportunity for that seller because at the end of the day, that's our job. If we're the listing agent, our job is to maximize the opportunity for that seller. And now you've really given that property exposure. And again, great job. And if I were you all, I'd be looking at those strategies. This is the market to do it in. This is the time of the year to do that. So heads up on that.
Uh,
Anything you
I,
want to
I
share?
can't I can't help but do a shameless plug. Breakthrough 120 session 4 has open houses. Anybody that needs a little strategy refresher on how to successfully manage and host those open houses, come hang out with us. The week of May 4th, session 4 will include the open house segment for Breakthrough 120.
So session four, if you're starting on the fourth, Adrian, would it be correct to say session four would be the seventh, the fourth day in?
That is correct.
Okay. So team, May 7th on your calendars, breakthrough 120. Make sure it's there.
We'll see you in Pines.
All right, love it. Let's move over to our condo markets. So here we are over in Dade County. And I know I saw a larger increase in price decreases, right? We saw a pretty big
Hmm.
jump. So not surprising. Seasonality, snowbirds leaving, people are going, okay, my property's still on the market. It didn't move. I got to adjust.
Right. And it's funny because when I saw a few less new to market, I was like, oh, that's right. They're not all staying. Maybe those snowbirds are saying, all right, it's time to go. We'll come back. We'll look at this again. But the actives stayed pretty even. Closed sales are up and pendings are up. This is like what a hell of a week.
Yeah, no, it was really good. And we don't know how much world events plays into all of these things, right? And it was a quieter week with a temporary truce, pause. I don't know what to tell you. And all I can pray is that we get a real one. We'll see. I don't know.
I hear you.
No crystal ball here,
Yep. Nope. None on
contrary
that.
to Jose's belief. All right. And over in Broward County, what are we looking at here, Adrian?
I saw the same three things. Actives are up, closed are up, and pendings are up. Which is again, it's just really good news across, which means, agents are back to work. They're taking advantage of the cycle of the market. Um, that's what I saw.
Yep. I saw the same thing. All right. So I'm going to show you as we move out of the overview of the stats, I'm going to move into a video. And some of you may have caught this video. This was posted last week. Let me tee it up for you a little bit. This was posted last week, and this explains a little bit as to some of what we're beginning to see in the South Florida market. If you're from New York or you have ties to the New York market, you may be aware of things that are happening or changes that happen there. But if you're not, I want you to take a look at this video and then we'll kind of break it down for you. So bear with me as we show this one. Hang on a second here. Let's see if this will play. And it will, but of course I have to make it bigger and then make sure the volume's up and now try.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate but who don't actually live here. But even so, they're able to reap the huge financial rewards of owning property in, dare I say, the greatest city in the world. And most of the time, these units are sitting empty, since again, they don't actually live here. This is a fundamentally unfair system that hurts working New Yorkers. Now, it's coming to an end. This tax will raise at least $500 million directly for the city. It'll help fund things like free childcare, cleaner streets, and safer neighborhoods. As mayor, I believe everyone has a role to play in contributing to our city, and some a little bit more than others. Happy Tax Day, New York.
All right,
Happy
team.
tax day. I don't know. Nat, if you don't mind, I'll go first for just a quick second. I know that you've got plenty of thoughts on this. Without taking a side on either position, I see kind of like a game of chicken, right? If the city taxes too much, the wealthy leave and the budgets crumble. But if the city takes too little, then the services crumble and the city becomes unattractive to other people. I just think he's caught in that weird reality where his biggest taxpayers have private jets and second homes in other places. Just so that might have been emotional. All right, I'll stop.
So here's the deal. What you're seeing right now in South Florida, this was probably one of the best commercials you could have done pro Florida. Because what you're seeing is the flight to safety capital by the wealthy to Florida for the exact reason why they are escaping places like New York, Chicago, and California. People build a business, and again, not all that money of people who build businesses comes legally. We know that. And not everybody worked as hard as everybody else, but there are some people that work really hard to create a business which creates employment in a city to then be penalized for the fact that you've worked hard to create an opportunity for others really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then when you take a position of, I'm going to tax my wealthiest, you now start having people think, well, maybe I shouldn't keep my real estate there. So that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So at the end of it, to say, doesn't matter which side you're on. The whole point
Mhm.
is you've got people that maybe now having a second thought about keeping those properties in New York. You may have some people now who may be thinking, maybe I should relocate to Florida, or maybe I should liquidate what I'm holding there and invest it in an area where I don't get penalized. Florida being one of those states. I mean, plenty, there's a whole lot of other ones, and yet we don't have a
Yeah.
state income tax. This is why you see some of that money flow to South Florida specifically, right? So the reason I share this is part of what you're seeing as the push out from the New York markets at the ultra wealthy level. We've seen them come into the, let's call it the east of 95 corridor. the Surfside, North Beach, South Beach, Brickell, a lot of that market, and of course, north of us into Palm Beach. What happens is initially the ultra wealthy money leaves. Eventually, businesses get set up, and then the mid-level and the rest of the market starts to move with it when employment is available in the local market. So I share this with you all to tell you if you've got connections and you've got connections to New York realtors and or you've got connections to high net worth individuals, it's time to deepen your relationships because this was posted by every Wall Street person I follow as an exact reason why you don't want to invest your money into New York City, which is crazy because that's where they're working. So that's kind of nuts, but that is the truth of what's happening. So Florida, you have an opportunity that the rest of the country probably doesn't have because we do have infrastructure that part of the country doesn't have. So my 2 cents.
Got it. I don't know. My head just keeps asking, is there a video? Is there a way that our agents can become the platform for this to receive some of that? I don't know. That's what my head's doing.
It's relationship. I mean, at that level, that's relationship, right? And what we're also seeing, if you're tracking the numbers, what we're seeing is the wealth migration out of New York that is coming here. What we're seeing is a lot of rentals that first year. We're
Okay.
seeing a lot of people renting that first year to two. And part of that is this just a temporary move? Am I just kind of escaping for a period of time, right? But I think part of it is also, do I like it here? Can I see myself living here? Could I establish roots in a new place? And where do I want to be? Do I want to be in Miami? Do I want to be in Broward? Do I want to be in Palm Beach? And I think people
There you
don't
go.
necessarily know that until they've spent time here.
That makes sense. Good.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. So just wanted to share that with you all. And if you've got that opportunity, take advantage of it. All right. So that's one extreme side of our market. Now we're going to go to the other extreme. We're going extremes today, Adrian. Because now
I
we're
was going
going
to
to
say,
talk
some of this
about
is heavy.
yeah, we're going to talk about the other part that just hit the markets, right? So a chart was done by Adam Data that came out in the South Florida Business Journal on Friday, and it was tracking the foreclosures nationally. But I wanted to share this with you all because this really is the mainstream media started to pick up on it over the weekend. The bloggers started picking up on it this morning. So I always want to make sure you guys are ahead of everybody else on this. So here's what you need to know. You need to know that Florida is currently number 2 in the country in terms of new foreclosures. So right now we are at a state level. So at a Florida state level, it's 1 out of 750 units. At 1 out of 750 properties in the state are in one state of foreclosure. So what that really means is in terms of raw numbers, we saw over 10,000 foreclosures, only second to Texas in the last quarter. Now, nationally, those numbers are up as well, but not nearly as high as they are here in South Florida or in Florida. Let's call it Florida for first. Okay. What you're going to see on the screen is you're going to see, I don't know why Broward County dropped its little tagline, but you can see that little staircase in front of you. You
Mhm.
see Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And you can see we start in 2020, and this is foreclosure starts. And then you can see kind of where we're at in 2025. And what you're going to notice is in 2020 and 2021, it's pretty flat. We all know, we all lived through it, the pandemic. There was a big pause in the foreclosures at the time. The the government gave us forbearance programs, and we for sure needed those programs. A lot of companies came to a pause. A lot of people who are employed on, let's say, maybe they're tipped employees, maybe they're contract employees, maybe they were Uber drivers, and there wasn't those things necessarily happening nationally, right? The
Right.
forbearance programs were put into place. And those forbearance programs, however, were scheduled to sunset, let's call it end in 2026. The new administration came in and said, look, COVID is in the rearview mirror. We need to end this a lot faster. And they sunsetted these programs last year. And so part of what you're seeing from a state basis is the number of foreclosures that are coming on as a result of people who got a forbearance that never caught up again. So those are some FHA loans that are coming up. If you look at a heat map of kind of where some of this is hyper focused, you're going to see there's a couple of reasons we're seeing it. So number one, you got the FHA. Number two, you had some hurricanes. And if you look at a heat map, you're going to see these properties are concentrated along the west coast of Florida and
Hmm.
into central Florida. So that Fort Myers, um, north of Fort Myers area up into Tampa and then across to Orlando. And some of that is also due to as a result of the hurricanes. In addition to that, what else happened to us that we're dealing with in the condo markets right now?
Surfside, the reform, the condo reform.
Condo reform. And so, as if things weren't heavy enough for some people in some areas, now add on condo reform. And all of a sudden you're like, well, where's this money supposed to come from? Right? It doesn't magically appear. And then finally, you have what's playing into this is then you have the properties that were purchased in during the craze, right? And I call the craze years sort of 2021 to
Hmm.
2022. If you were in real estate, even up until 2023, if you were in real estate in those years, like you couldn't breathe. You put a property on, you had 20 offers or you had 50 offers, you had an open house, the line was down the block. It was lunacy. And in many cases, people may have significantly overpaid for some of those properties willingly, 50,
Right.
100,000, $200,000 over. And then, the more the interest rates start to increase in '04 and '05 and now '06, and property values have softened, in maybe some areas or some buildings may have gone backwards from what they paid when they may have overpaid. And so there you've got some people making business decisions as well, right? I'm just going to not do it. Now, what I
Hmm.
also need you guys to understand is what plays in these numbers, and they don't break it out anywhere, and we would have to manually go through each record, is how many of these are associations that are filing for foreclosure. It's not just the bank. When it says foreclosure filings are up, if I'm a homeowner and I'm
Yeah.
frustrated that my association went from 800 to $1,500, and maybe I'm making my mortgage payment, or maybe I don't even have a mortgage payment on my property, and I don't necessarily understand the rules, I make a decision not to pay the association because I'm pissed. And now
Hmm.
I've got a problem because they can actually file for foreclosure. So I want you guys to understand this is not the sky's falling, not by any means, but to the people that this is happening to, the sky's falling. It's not happening to the market. But there are people out there right now that need your help. These are people that don't understand that there are options available to them. Some of these people have equity in this property, but the moment the bank goes to foreclose and that final sale comes in, that equity is gone. There are people that you can still help. In addition, you need to make sure that if you work with investors, they understand that they are skilled before they ever try to go buy property at the courthouse auctions.
I
Because
don't
we
know.
just
I didn't.
in a
I don't
split
know
second.
why when you said that I have it's reminiscent of the days where here buy this VHS tape and we'll show you how to make millions off of these properties.
Are you making fun of me?
I'm just saying that's what I saw. That's what showed up in my head when you said that.
Because I did. I was 18 or 19 years old. I bought a VHS tape from Carlton Sheets that talked about how to buy real estate. There was Tom Vu, that was the other guy. Oh my gosh, I'm really dating myself now. But yes, there were a million people peddling this. And yes, there are ways you can absolutely do it. However, what we're hearing again are the stories that remind me of 2008, 9, and 10, is where
Mhm.
people were so excited because they bought a property for 15,000 for $20,000 and they didn't. What they bought was a lien by the association that filed foreclosure that's still subject to a first mortgage. And the story, somebody just brought us a story last week on this again. So team, pay attention. Make sure this is a great social media post for you all. This is a great education piece. This is a great connection to your database for your investors. But if you are listing agents, this is a great opportunity for you to have that conversation. And please, when you're going on listing appointments, you want to make sure you ask that homeowner. And I don't care if it's a condo, a townhouse, or a single family home. Ask them, what do they have debt service on the property, meaning do they have a mortgage or more than one on the property? And
Hmm.
also ask them, are we current on all obligations against the property?
Probably the most important question.
And when you ask somebody if they're current on all obligations, when they say, what do you mean? Meaning any mortgages, first and second, and any associations. Because sometimes people don't remember to tell you they're not making an association payment. And the last thing you want to do, and I know, Adrian, you just rescued another one 2 weeks ago or so, is
We literally
find
we
out
got
at
to
the
the
closing table.
Yep, we're at the closing table, and it turns out that the seller was now in a negative equity position because they stopped making payments, debt service payments, 3 months, which is when the start of the listing agreement occurred. And unfortunately, now everybody's getting sued. But the point is that we were able to save it, but people had to come to the table with money, and how unfortunate was that?
Yeah, we had David Freed down at Miami Beach just had a situation like that maybe 6, 8 weeks ago. And I mean, literally, he jumped through hoops and hoops and hoops and got it closed after they literally had to pull the foreclosure file. Like it was a
Hmm.
deal to get that done. So just FYI, team, it's important. It's enough to pay attention to. That's what we're telling you. So
Agreed. All right,
okay,
cool.
awesome. All right, and here's just just a little bit more data so you understand. But what you also need to know is you need to know when the media picks up these stories, how the story will be told. And it's important to understand Broward County is the county that actually saw the significant increase with 24%, almost a 25% increase. In contrast, Dade County actually dropped slightly. Part of what you're seeing are like, again, these what I call legacy foreclosures, right? These things that have been stuck in the system for years. The courts no longer have patience for these, and they have been tasked with something called the rocket docket. It's basically drive them through. They've been sitting there way too long. And so pay attention. That's all. All right. We are done with that. All right. So we have our update. And the reason normally we would have held this till next week, but because we knew the media would run with the story, it was important to kind of share some of this with you today. We have our quarterly housing market update coming next week. And so it is at the same bat time, but not on the same bat channel. Some of you know what that meant.
Love
Scan
it.
the QR code because you're going on a different Zoom. That one is done webinar style, so we won't see all of your beautiful faces. It'll be sort of be one way. So if you're driving or doing whatever you need to do, you can listen to us like a podcast that day. You can also invite a friend. It's a much larger platform, so we open it up. So please invite your friends in the industry, the people that you believe probably need this information right now. There are agents out there that are struggling that we should be able to give them an insight as to what's really happening in the market. So hit the QR code. It's also longer. It's not 30 minutes, it's an hour and 30 minutes, 11 to 12:30. So make sure you have your lunch. If you're an early eater, have your food.
And we promise not to put anybody to sleep. Seriously.
Or you'll be scrunchy. All right. And last on the deck, here's your other QR code. Please, please, please save the date. Once a year as a company, we get together to give back. Now, many of you do give backs constantly. We saw some of you participating in the Miami Association cleanup. They did funny enough, they also did a beach cleanup this weekend. And so some of you did participate. So kudos to you. It's our opportunity to put our businesses on pause for a few hours, get together as a team and give back to our community and have some fun while we do it. So hit that QR code and save the date, put it on your calendars now. Block out the daytime hours that day. If you got a listing appointment, we'll make sure you get there. Just book it for late in the afternoon. We want to see everybody participating. So it's not too much to ask.
I was going to say, we're always excited about Red Day. Red Day's fun.
Red Day is a great time, and we have a good time. And we'll have a picnic together this year, is my understanding. So we'll have some fun. All
Very
right.
cool.
And man, we made it just in time. And
Right
so
on.
everything we do, we couldn't do without all of these partners. So Adrian, take it away.
So, no, just want to thank our partners, Top Flight Mortgages and Lending, for all of what they do, and our wonderful partners there for always feeding and fueling everything that's going on in that industry. Gregory B. Taylor, Title, for all that he does on the closing side and helping those deals move forward, and my RE Taster for all of those additional um, tasks that real estate agents or real estate professionals have to be doing the tedious stuff that they would rather set to someone else, my RE tasker. All right.
Awesome. All right, team, have a great, safe, and productive week. We will see y'all next Monday.
See you
Good
soon.
night. Peace out.